So I've noticed a recent trend, or rather kind of resurgence of videos that are about people and how they annotate books that they read. So I was figuring, I'm a grad student in literature, so annotating books is what I do all the time. So why not join in on the fun? Because I love being a joiner. So first, I'm gonna start with like the things that I use to mark in my books. So first of all, there are like two different kinds of pens that I use to write in the margins. And which pen I use really depends on the kind of pages that are in the book. So if my favorite pens are the G2 Pilot series. I like the focus. Okay, it's not gonna focus. I like the 38 millimeter or 5 millimeter, or 50, I guess it would be 50 milliliter. I don't know. Math is not my thing. That's why I'm a lit student. But I like these, the gel pens. I like how smooth they write. They're my favorite pen. I like almost exclusively write with them. But I use these when the pages are thicker, because if the pages are thin, they do have a tendency to bleed. And so sometimes I can disrupt the text that's on the opposite page. And so for books with thinner pages, I use like stick pins, ballpoint pens. I prefer the blue ones. I actually stole this from my workplace, so don't tell anyone, but there's that. Now for highlighting, these are the 4 colors that I use. I generally stick to pink and yellow because I find that they're more reader friendly when I'm going back and looking at what it is that I've highlighted. It's easier to read the text through these two colors because they're not as saturated or as harsh. And it also depends on like the page type. So if they're thinner pages, generally I find that the pigment will show up darker than if they're thicker pages because it soaks into the paper more. But occasionally I will use orange and green. I really don't have like a color system. It's more of just what I'm feeling at the moment or which highlighter is closer. But I do have a tendency, so if I'm highlighting more than one passage on the same page, I will use 2 different colors just to kind of differentiate between them, especially if the passages are really close together. So this would be an example of that, where I use more than one color on the same page, because you can see there's kind of like this big wall of text, and each passage, I'm wanting to highlight them for different reasons, but they're all next to each other, so I use different colors to differentiate where the passage that I am specifically highlighting stops and starts, so I don't get confused and it's not just a giant wall of color. And so here's an example where I used the blue pen to annotate. This was in Moby Dick, and the pages are super thin, so like you can see the writing that's on the opposite page through the paper because the pages are so thin. So in this one, I used the stick pen because the ink doesn't bleed through as much. Okay, so I'm trying to find an example of where I used the gel pen, and I also use the stick pin in all the other examples that I have pulled, so kind of renege on that, because apparently I don't even know my own annotation system because I don't have one. It's just really a hodgepodge of whatever materials are closest to me and whatever I'm feeling in the moment. So this is going great. So next up are the tabs that I use. I stick to these, the rainbow tabs. I prefer the thinner ones. I will use the thicker ones if, again, really for no reason. If I run out of the thin ones, then I'll use the thicker ones because they're part of the pack and I paid for them, so I'm gonna use them because I don't want to waste my money. But yeah, I like the rainbow ones for no real reason. Again, just like with the highlighting, I don't have like a color coded system. I just like the different colors because what can I say? I'm a chaotic bitch sometimes. I really don't have a method for anything that I do. But yeah, I like these ones, and they have to be the Post-it brand because I am a brand whore. I like brand name things. Some things I will get the generic brand, but some things I will pay the extra money for the brand name. No particular reason why, just because that's how I am. And next up is like sticky notes. So I will use sticky notes if I have something to write in the margins, but either the margins are too small or what I want to write is like too long and it will just like clog up the margins and the handwriting will probably be illegible if I do it. So I'll just whip out a sticky note and write it. I'll also use sticky notes if I'm like developing thoughts for analysis when I'm reading for like to be used in a seminar paper. So I want to more like pinpoint exactly why I'm marking this specific passage and what it's going to do for my research and how it applies or connects to my thesis or what I'm trying to develop in my paper. I do like marginal annotations more for just like jotting down incomplete thoughts or response for discussion in class, as opposed to more developed ideas for when I'm actually applying analysis for a research paper. So next, because I'm doing more annotation in like an academic setting, I don't really annotate books that I read for fun. It's just something, it's not really something I do. Like if there's a sentence that I like or a quote that I like, I'll highlight it, but I don't like go as in depth as when I'm doing annotations for school. So I'm just going to show a couple of examples of what those annotations look like more in depth. So there are generally like two different types of texts that I am annotating when I'm in school. So they're like theoretical texts and then the like actual like literature texts that I'm applying the theory to. So when it comes to theoretical texts, what I'm really looking for when I'm annotating are like major ideas and like the central thesis and ideas that are part of the text. And then also I will look at things that can be applied to whatever scholarship I'm doing at the time. Where did I put, where's Marx? Where did it go? So like this is my copy of the Communist Manifesto. And let's see. So like on this page, you can see I've kind of like annotated in the margins how the text applies to today, like how it's relevant today, and also just kind of like what the text is saying, what the central argument is. And here we have again just writing about the central like themes and the implications of what the text is saying and how it can be applied to broader topics. And then here is an example of me annotating for a specific application to the text that I'm analyzing for a broader research topic. So as you can see, it like specifically references characters and the novel. So that signals to me that that is going to be used, or the ideas there are going to be used to develop like my own thesis towards a specific text. So here in my copy of Moby Dick, it was in like a theory class. So each week we were applying different theories to the text that we were reading. And so here you can see how like I've just mentioned like the name of the theorist we were reading. So this would indicate that this passage like directly correlates to the theme or the central idea of the theoretical text we were reading. And this one too, so it's just like a tiny note in the margins, so like this connects to this and it can be used in like a discussion for class. And in each chapter, or each time we would change theories, there's like a mention of a different theorist. And so like this one is when we were doing like Marxist theory, and it talks about labor and stuff like that. And so this is my copy of Outlander. I did a seminar paper using Outlander as the central text last semester, and you can see here like there's just different colors of tabs just in order. They don't mean anything. It's just I ran out of that color, so I switched to the next one. And so here you can see how I noted this passage because it directly correlates to an idea that was mentioned in the theoretical text. And then here's an example of using post-it notes to develop more of a broader idea that wouldn't fit in the margins. Also, I have learned to be careful with post-it notes because, as you can see, it ripped some of the text out of the book. So, lesson learned. Was not very happy about that. And then here, there's another use of a post-it note. On the pages where I use post-it notes, I don't really have like a lot of highlighting. It's more of just like, these are my thoughts so far. Either in this specific page or chapter, or like developed through the course of reading the text. It's more like developing my thoughts and developing my arguments as they apply to the text. So that's just kind of a brief overview of how I annotate books for school. Maybe someday I'll get around to actually annotating books that I read for fun. Most of the time, I only annotate books that I read for fun if they're like really bad and I want to go back and read like the really cringy stuff because that's just who I am. If I liked a book, I don't really highlight or annotate that much, but if I'm reading a book that is just like really cringy or really bad, I'll highlight the things that make me go like, what the hell is going on? But yeah, that's how I annotate books. That's all this video is. Pretty straightforward. Thanks for watching. Bye.